What is going on, YouTube? So coming back today with my next NBA draft scouting report. So it's been a couple days since I did one. I have been working on my Stadium Series tour, but yeah, you guys will see more videos on that coming soon. So today I will be doing Henry Ellenson. I believe the last one I did was Joe Key, so moving with another big here. So a little bit of background information, stats, whatnot about Henry Ellenson. He is a 6'11" freshman center out of Marquette, from Rich Lake, Wisconsin, 245 pounds with a 7'2" wingspan. He did play a little bit at the 4. He's a guy that will probably switch between 4 and 5 in the NBA, depending on what team he ends up with. It could be a small ball 5, could be a regular 5, or could be a kind of a, maybe not a stretch 4, but definitely a 4 that works in the post a little bit in the mid-range game. So some of his stats from last year: 45% field goal percentage, 17 points per game, and about 9.7 rebounds to go along with 2 assists per game. So good stats. Was probably Marquette's best player. And get into some of his strengths. So first one is he's got good size and decent athleticism for the position. He's pretty fluid, can run well in transition. I'll get more into that later with his running in transition. But the size at a 7'2" wingspan, that's a very good measurable. And then he's got a desired weight that you want for kind of the modern NBA big. He won't get bullied in the post, can still rebound, but at the same time he's still fluid and can run in transition as a small ball. That is a small ball 5, so a good combination of his size and athleticism for, I'd say, what the NBA requires out of a big nowadays. So second strength is he is a good facilitator. So 2 assists per game, obviously not elite, but he actually did have more assists per game than he did blocks, which even with having 1.5 blocks per game, which isn't a bad stat, but not a great one either. He was actually a pretty good passer. He's got pretty good hands. He's coordinated, and that's something you need. While you don't need them to be while you don't need your bigs to be elite facilitators, with the amount of pick and roll that's run in the NBA now, and just with the reliance on bigs in transition, and just the amount of cuts. Like I said, the complexity of some offenses playing small ball now, how fast the game moves, you gotta have your bigs as at least decent passers. They can't be a liability to your team. So next strength is he is good. He's good at transition, good with running the ball, and it actually looks pretty fluid. If you go through and watch his highlights, see him running transition, he can get to the hoop. He's not the most explosive player in the world, but he's athletic enough, and he's got good enough post moves and I'd say shooting skills to the point where he can take it by himself and score. Again, not the greatest driver, but he's got enough of a skill set, enough speed, good enough dribbler to be able to get inside and score, like you really would hope for a 4 or a 5 now in the NBA. So next strength is he's got a good mid-range and post game. He shot about 40% from 12 feet or longer this year, which isn't fantastic, but also is still pretty good. A lot of bigs nowadays can't really shoot past the free throw line, and then some actually have 3-point range. Now you're talking about guys like Dwight Howard, Andre Drummond, DeAndre Jordan. They don't really ever shoot outside that point. And one other strength for him that I will not cover in depth is his free throw shooting. Is shooting 75%. And considering he got to the line almost 6 times per game, that is getting to the line a lot. He's a pretty aggressive, or he's a pretty physical player, and shooting 75% from the line is a major bonus for a big nowadays. And shooting, like I said, shooting around 40% from 12 feet and longer is still, it's good. Again, not great, but it's serviceable. You can work with it, and he'll still be able to put up decent points with that ability. And he's got a developing post game. Like I said, he's pretty quick, especially for a big of his size and weight. And he's got good hands and a developing post game, which is promising for the future. So next strength and last strength is he's a good rebounder. 9.7 rebounds per game, almost 10 rebounds per game. That's a solid stat you want to have, almost averaging a double-double per game, including 17 points per game this year. Those are close to being elite stats for college basketball. Played around 34 minutes per game, so what you would expect out of probably the best player on a team that can labor through some minutes. And also being able to get 1.5 blocks per game on top of that. Now, weaker competition was part of that, and he did have a lot of minutes. He was Marquette's best big, so those also played into it. I don't think he's going to be the greatest rim protector in the NBA, but again, something else I'll get into in a little bit. So getting into his weaknesses, first one is three-point shooting. So that's been a debated thing with Henry Ellenson, is whether or not he will be a good three-point shooter in the NBA. He shoots 29% from three, or he shot 29% from three in college. Did show improvement, but for a guy that shot three or had 3.2 attempts per game from three, that's not something you look for. Hopefully that's something that can improve past 33, 34%. If he wants to become a three-point shooter, if he wants to be able to have that threat in the NBA and be respected for that ability. Again, it's not a huge weakness for Mo. It's not a weakness you really worry about because he's got a decent mid-range game, and you feel like the three-point game can develop. And considering the fact that he's also got a developing post game, adding a three-point shot would probably just be another tool in the arsenal. It would be a bonus, but it's not something you absolutely require. I'd say probably the smallest red flag out of the three weaknesses I have down for Ellenson. So next weakness is he's a poor defender. This is the biggest one. So again, 1.5 blocks per game. It's good, not great. 0.8 steals per game. It's okay. But he shows average to below average effort at times on defense. Gets beat easily from the perimeter and inside. He gets beat very easily off the drive. If he's ever covering like a player that's a stretch forward, that's going to be a problem for him, at least in my mind. He does foul a decent amount. He gave up what seemed like a lot of and ones this past year, and it's something that you really hope improves because obviously having a 5, nowadays you want him to be a good defender, and rim protection is a needed asset in the NBA, and that's not something you're going to get from Henry Ellenson. To go along with that, the footwork, the fundamentals, I think they need a little bit of improvement. The rebounding is probably his biggest strength on defense, but everything else seems to be a little bit of a liability. Off-ball awareness is not there. He's not very good at fighting through screens either. So you hope to see improvement slowly but surely, since he was just a freshman in college. So something you can't really bash him too much for so far. But again, like I said, hopefully something that improves as he goes along in the NBA. So last weakness is he needs to have a more consistent motor and decision making. Seems like he hesitates, takes some poor jumpers sometimes. Did take quite a few shots every game at about 13.2 field goals attempted. Yeah, that's right. And also, the turnovers need to be reduced. 2.4 turnovers per game. Those need to be taken down. He almost averaged as many turnovers as he did fouls per game, 2.5. And for a guy that didn't have the ball in his hands that much, a few of them were from running in transition and having the ball in his hands a lot in transition. But other times it was just lack of decision making. I'd say it's a weird weakness, but an unwillingness to pass. A lot of times, like I said, he took jumpers and started posting up when he shouldn't have. And he's got the passing ability. It's just something that needs to be there consistently. I think that's one thing that'll come along. But also, I mentioned it with his defense. He just needs to put in a little bit more effort. Playing 34 minutes per game might have been laboring him a little bit in college. Like I said, for a guy of his size and his ability to run in transition, you would expect more around 30 minutes per game. So it might have just been a result of that, but this is a guy that's probably going to come in and start or be a 6th or 7th man in the rotation from day one. So that's going to be an issue that's probably going to be ironed out pretty quickly. So you hope that the motor comes along more consistently. It's definitely needed on defense. On offense, he's a good rebounder. It seems like the motor's there, but again, more ironing out the decision-making on offense and the off-ball awareness on defense just consistently, and then also get a consistent motor on defense as well. So that pretty much does it for strengths and weaknesses. So talk about the normal thing that I'll talk about at the end of the video, where I think he projects in the NBA, where I think he'll get drafted in best fits. So I like his fit with the Boston Celtics, I think that's my favorite one. I don't think he's going to end up going there because the Boston Celtics probably will have the third or fourth pick. And I just don't see him going that early in the draft. I see him as a late lottery pick. I'd say maybe 10 at the high, maybe 8 to 10 at the highest, probably 19 or 20 at the lowest. The last NBA draft.net mock draft had him going at 18 to the Detroit Pistons. But overall, a few other fits that I think would be good for him. One, I don't think this is going to happen. It's just an intriguing possibility to me with the Cleveland Cavaliers. I don't even think they have a first-round pick, so that'd be something they had to trade in for. But when you're talking about actual relevant possibilities, I think one is definitely, like I said, the Boston Celtics. That's my favorite one. Two is the Chicago Bulls, a team that's going to need a center after this year, losing Pau Gasol and losing Joakim Noah. They're going to need a big down low that's going to be able to do things like running in transition with a team that's trying to go faster. And then the last one that I like is his fit with the Phoenix Suns. So the Phoenix Suns need a center. They need to move past Alex Len, and they need a new big to be able to score a little bit more. It's a team that needs to score more points. So those are my favorite fits. Like I said, I think he fits anywhere around the 8 to 20 range. I know that's a wide range, but I'd say you're probably looking around 12 to 16 at the most reasonable spot. He is, to me, he's a guy with elite offensive potential as an NBA big. I think he's a guy that can average 14, 15 points per game at his peak in the NBA with 8 to 10 rebounds. He's got that ability. The assists might come along. The blocking ability is not really there. So I think 2 to 3 assists is probably where you're looking at for him max. And again, the free throw shooting ability is going to help him out a lot. If he's able to shoot above 70% with the struggles of NBA bigs for free throw shooting nowadays, that's just another added plus. Doesn't allow teams to do the little, I guess, a Hacka Ellenson strategy. Hacka Henry. That sounds better than Hacka Ellenson. But anyway, that pretty much does it for this video. Tomorrow I will be coming back with probably Domantas Sabonis, again, another big guy from Gonzaga. If you have not seen my Joki yet, go check that out. I'll put the link to that, or the link to that will be in the outro, and the link to the entire playlist will be in the description below. So I do have, this is my 20th one, so I do have, I believe, 10 more coming after this. And I'll try to get them done within the next 2 weeks and be able to get you guys a mock draft after that. Probably the last mock draft before I do a full 2-round mock draft before the NBA draft. So that's pretty much it. Like I said, check out the video tomorrow. We'll be coming back with another one tomorrow. See ya. Okay. So, Player's not gotten a whole lot of exposure over here in the U.S., but he is a 7'1" center. Can also play the stretch 4 position out of, actually, I think you play at the 4, the stretch 4, out of China, 210 pounds, 7 foot.